Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And I got to talk to you about this debacle that is taking place in St. Louis with the St. Louis City's Sheriff's Department. And now there have been new charges added to St. Louis Sheriff Alfred Montgomery's indictment. There have been 5 new felony charges. 5. And this whole gamut of political posturing and this so-called juvenile power structure that is taking place in the Sheriff's Department is somewhat embarrassing for the city of St. Louis and City Hall. This situation could end up worse than the travesty that took place a few years ago with St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner. And as you all should know that at the time, Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey had to come in and have Attorney Kim Gardner removed. Well, this might end up worse for Sheriff Alfred Montgomery. Remember, that is an elected position, political position. He may end up in a worse situation than Attorney Kim Gardner and end up going to prison at some point. This is not looking good for the newly elected St. Louis Sheriff Alfred Montgomery. So let's get into the story and what's going on with these 5 new felony charges. The St. Louis Sheriff indicted on 5 new felony charges related to his order to handcuff then acting jail commissioner Tammy Ross earlier this year. The charges, they include 4 charges of witness retaliation and 1 witness tampering. So 4 charges of witness retaliation and 1 charge of witness tampering. Sheriff Montgomery has pleaded not guilty to all the charges. Magistrate Judge John M. Bodenhassen ordered Montgomery to be placed under house arrest until a hearing next week. He'll have to wear an ankle monitor. Sheriff Montgomery remains on the job or in the job, but David C. Mason, the sheriff's office attorney, who is a retired judge, will be running the office in the interim. Court documents say that Montgomery demoted and then promoted a deputy who was deposed by the Missouri Attorney General's office. Attorney General Catherine Hanaway asked a judge this week to immediately remove Montgomery from office based on 3 of the quo warranto counts this week. Sheriff Montgomery allegedly told employees he thought were being deposed that they couldn't have been in the courthouse, and told one in an email that they were being placed on unpaid leave, though Montgomery later retracted that statement. Montgomery also alleged to have told an employee in a recorded phone call that I don't have to take this shit. I am the effing sheriff. I say it's either done or it ain't. I don't have to tolerate this bull crap. He said, you work for the pleasure of me. I brought you into this mother effing department. The sheriff told an employee to change an incident report. The sheriff told an employee to change an incident report's explanation of why he had Ross detained, according to court documents. He also alleged to have fired an employee who was deposed in the Ross case. Sheriff Montgomery's lawyer said the worker was terminated by an employment committee led by Mason. The worker was fired for shredding documents she wasn't supposed to, said Justin Gelfand, Sheriff Montgomery's personal attorney. The sheriff put into place real proper legal employment mechanisms and protocol, Attorney Gelfand said. That's doing the right thing. That's not committing a felony, he said. Attorney Gelfand also accused federal investigators of charging Montgomery without seeing all the evidence. The evidence they don't have, evidence that's in the hands of the St. Louis City Sheriff's Office, is evidence we believe is completely exculpatory, Gelfand said. Why would you not want all of the evidence before you make a serious decision? Sheriff Montgomery also failed a drug test for cannabis, which is illegal at the federal level despite the legality in Missouri. Montgomery was charged in August with a federal misdemeanor for deprivation of rights under the color of law for having Ross handcuffed. That was the jail commissioner at the time, which could carry up to a year in prison time and a $1,000 fine. At the time, Montgomery admitted to using cannabis, and a judge warned him that carrying a firearm while using a federally illegal substance might be a federal offense. In a statement posted to Facebook that has since been taken down, Montgomery was defiant and compared himself to great leaders of our past, including Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. So St. Louis Sheriff Alfred Montgomery said that this case against him is so egregious that he's compared himself to Dr. Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. I think that is a far stretch, and that might tip over into wanting to question Sheriff Montgomery's mental capacity at this time. Is he living in reality? He said, if you are reading this message, it means I am likely being held behind bars against my will, he wrote. But let me be clear, do not allow this situation to shake your faith in our democracy. I have always believed that your vote is your voice, and it is a powerful tool for change. Your voice has been heard, and you have elected a sheriff who is committed to fighting for your rights until the very end. You have to remember that the St. Louis Sheriff's Office and position is an elected position. He was voted in like any other politician. However, the St. Louis jail commissioner at the time, Ms. Tammy Ross, is also suing the sheriff in federal court over the matter, alleging false imprisonment, battery, and civil rights violations. The Missouri Attorney General filed a quo warranto suit against the sheriff in an attempt to remove Montgomery from office this summer. That case included 6 charges, including nepotism, misuse of public resources, and the sheriff's refusal to transport detainees for medical care. In August, a judge dismissed the nepotism charge after Montgomery's legal team uncovered a 2016 family court order demonstrating that a deputy alleged to be his half-brother was not related to Sheriff Montgomery. Montgomery has drawn additional criticism for refusing to transport detainees to receive medical care, but he is spending money on new badges, uniforms, and a take-home car while his office is in a budget deficit. Sheriff Montgomery almost sounds like the mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson. Slightly delusional. The St. Louis Board of Aldermen and suffering from some kind of self-grandiose power struggle here. The St. Louis Board of Aldermen last month passed legislation to define the duties of his office and put it under financial monitoring. He sued the city in response, but a judge ordered him to begin doing medical transports while the matter works its way through the court. So the sheriff's department had been transporting detainees to medical appointments for the last 25 years. Sheriff Montgomery gets elected in November, December, gets in office January, and he decides to cut it, the medical transportation, immediately, without even notifying Mayor Kara Spencer. It even caught her off guard. So it sounds like Sheriff Alfred Montgomery took this position in this department, in the sheriff's department, and he's deciding he's going to do whatever he wants to do. That's not the way politics and civil government works. It says on Tuesday, the city's attorney's office dropped its representation of the sheriffs in roughly a dozen legal proceedings. So on Tuesday, the city attorney's office dropped its representation of the sheriff's office in roughly a dozen legal proceedings. Your recently filed lawsuit against the city of St. Louis has created an untenable situation and could possibly create multiple conflicts of interest, wrote City Councilor Michael Garvin in an October 7 letter to Montgomery obtained by St. Louis Public Radio. Aside from the federal cases, the sheriff and his office are also facing multiple other lawsuits, including a defamation lawsuit from Tony Kirchner, a former sheriff's deputy who alleges that Sheriff Montgomery said that Kirchner could keep his job if he could roll a 7 with a pair of golden dice. That was even recorded. Tony Kirchner rolled a 7, but was later terminated anyway. The sheriff had organized a rally of his supporters on Sunday at beloved Community United Methodist Church, which has since been canceled. So even with him having this guy, Tony Kirchner, rolling dice, that was caught on recording, it sounds like that Alfred Montgomery, here again, I'm giving a comparison to Mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, that they're suffering a little bit from arrogance, hubris, and I'm going to take this political position that I was voted in by the people to represent the people, but I'm going to take this department and do whatever I want like it's his own private corporate company. That's not how politics and government work. I think Alfred Montgomery needs to take a look in the mirror. He's in a lot of trouble. We're talking about 5 new felony charges. And if his arrogance and hubris does not get corrected, he may end up in prison. Tell me what you think. This is not representing the city of St. Louis and City Hall very well. And it sounds like Sheriff Alfred Montgomery may need to go.